Hello and welcome back to another Django DRF project. This time is going to be a quiz project. So we're going to be building a quiz API essentially here, but really the essence of this tutorial is that I wanted to show you a little bit more about serializers. So far really what we've seen in at least my tutorials is that to use a serializer, we select the data from the database that we want, and normally that's from one table. We put it through the serializer. And again, we're just using one table. So this really is a showcase or taking that one step further and thinking about multiple tables. So utilizing serializers where we're collecting data from multiple tables. And this kind of setup really kind of leans into kind of demonstrating some of the other Django tools that we have available, functions that we have available to actually perform these type of operations. So we'll go through the process of building a simple quiz API. We'll go through the process of developing the models. I'll give you a few different pointers that I haven't mentioned before about models. And then we'll create some simple views and serializers. So at the end of this tutorial, we'll have some endpoints. So we'll be able to, from a front end, we'll be able to grab all quizzes from our API. We'll be able to grab maybe a random question from a particular topic, and then all questions from a particular quiz. So this will be a standalone tutorial. We don't have any front end here. We're going to be utilizing Postman just to kind of grab all the data, or the Django API view, just to grab the data and show you that the data is being returned here. And then in the next tutorials, we'll have a look at maybe then just creating a simple front end to consume the endpoints. But like I said, really the focus here is on those handling relational data, particularly foreign key setups in your serializers. Okay, so I'm going to try and make this into sections so you can easily skip ahead. So step one, as you might imagine, we're going to need to create a new project. So I'm going to create a new virtual environment, start a new Django project, create a new app called Quiz, and then install DRF. So that's pip install Django Rest Framework. So by all means, do that yourself, skip to the next section. Otherwise, let's go ahead now and do this. So I'm using Windows, so I'm going to go ahead and I've already created a new folder called New Quiz Django Live. Not too sure why I'm using capitals, just am. So let's just call this VMV. Oh, what am I doing? -m, VMV. And we're going to make a new folder called VMV, which is a new virtual environment. Okay, so now that's done. Let's just activate this. There we go. Okay, so now we can go ahead and pip install. Let's pip install Django. So make the Django project or Django framework available. So once that's done, we can now then use the Django admin command of Django admin and then start a new app. And let's call this core, and I'm using the dot so it appears in this folder and doesn't make a new folder inside of a folder. That's strange. So now we can start a new project. So I just cleared that for you so you can see this. So Django admin, start project, and then we're going to call that core and use the dot so that it appears in this folder and doesn't make a new folder inside of a folder. So go ahead and do that. So I've now got a new folder here called core and obviously my settings. So now we can create, or now we can use the manage py file. So py manage file, manage py file, and then we can go ahead and start app. And we're going to call this app quiz. So let's go ahead and do that. So make a new quiz app. And then of course I need to just register that in the core settings as per normal. I'm just going to call that quiz. So that just registers the application with Django. So when we start migrating tables, etc., it will pick up all the models in the models table or the models py file. Okay, so that's that done. And we need to also install DRF. So let's go and install that. So pip install, remember the pip is the package manager for Python, which allows us access to softwares that we can install. So this is going to be the Django Rest Framework we're going to install. And once we've done that, what we can do straight away, if you like, is we can make a requirements file. That's going to be handy if we want to replicate the application. So pip freeze, and then the right chevron, and then we're going to call that requirements.txt. You can call it whatever you like, but we're going to call that requirements.txt. And that's just going to create a new file here called requirements with all the different dependencies and applications that we have to create this application, or that's needed to run this application. Okay, so that's about it really with step one. We've created our new virtual environment, created our new project, we've installed DRF. Okay, so probably one last thing that we need to do is just to actually include the REST framework into our application. So let's go ahead and go into the settings of our core. And then here we're just going to also now add the REST framework. So we'll include that in the applications. And let's just go ahead and do our initial migrate. Why not? So let's just go, we're going to apply all the different tables that Django has from the installed apps that are needed for the application so that we can set up our admin area and so on. So that's now in place. So we've migrated the data to a new database. It's right here. Now I've got the SQLite plugin or extension installed in Visual Studio Code. That's going to allow me to right click, open the database, and I can actually then see inside my database and inspect the tables and data. So let's just go ahead and create, while we're here, let's create a super user so that we can log into the admin when we need to. So I've just called it admin and admin, don't need an email address. It's not a mandatory field. And there we go. So let's just go ahead. Before we move to the next stage, just make sure things are working. Just do a run server. And that's going to show us that our server is now running. There's no problems. If there were, we'd probably receive an error right here. So now we have our project set up. Let's go ahead and actually build our models. I was going to take you through the process of normalization, but because I'm focusing particularly here on foreign keys, I've gone for a model built around foreign keys essentially here. So let's go ahead and now build our models. So just to speed things up, and I don't particularly like watching people type in. I know that some of you have mentioned you do prefer that, but I'm just going to go for the copy and paste method and just explain what we're doing. So first of all, we're going to create our main classes or our main tables that we're going to need for this quiz. So like I said, I was going to take you through the normalization process, but I spent a couple of hours trying to do that. And then I realized, well, I just want to show you I just want to show you foreign keys really. So the normalization process would have taken us down a slightly different route in terms of the model setup here. So we're going to have four main tables. So we're going to have the category table, we're going to have a quiz table, and then we're going to have a question table. So we're going to hold all the questions in one table. And then finally, we'll also include the answer table. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so those are the main tables that we're going to be utilizing for this project, or at least at the start of this project. So by setting the models up in this way, you can probably see that we're going to have many-to-one relationships here. So we're going to have or one-to-many, one category in many quizzes. There's going to be one quiz, many questions for that quiz. And then in one question, there might be many answers. So what we got here are foreign keys linking back to the previous table. So let's go ahead and just add that in. So we've got here a category field that's going to have a foreign key to the category table. So we've added a default option. So by default, when we add a new quiz, it's going to have the category of whatever the first category we place in the categories table is. And then you can see here on delete, do nothing. So what we don't want to happen here is that if we delete this quiz, it also deletes the category. So we just don't want that to happen. So imagine we build a quiz. We've got a category, say Django, and then we build a quiz. And then what we do is we assign that Django quiz to the category Django, and then we delete that quiz. And then what would happen, maybe utilizing the default setting, is that the category would also get deleted. So we just simply don't want that to happen. So really, just as a default, we're going to do nothing if a quiz is deleted. So that's not how we might want to finish this table, but just for now, that's going to be the case for all of these tables here. So we've got the question. So there's going to be one quiz and multiple questions. So let's go ahead and just add in that foreign key. So again, I'm just going to copy and paste this in. I've already written this out. So there we go. So same situation again. So now we've got a many-to-one connection between the question, many questions, one quiz, or one quiz and many questions. And then finally, the answers. So the same type of situation here. We're going to use a foreign key again. So this time we're going to just call this question. And that's going to be then connected to the question table. A foreign key, so many-to-one. So one question will have many answers. So because we're using the Django RRM, there's a little bit of abstractness here in the way that what we can do is if we find information in the quiz, because we've got that connection here, this foreign key connection between question and quiz, we could also, with the quiz data, work out what questions are attached to it. Because we've got this kind of connection here, this foreign key that connects this model or this table to this table. So Django works in a way that we can collect data backwards and forwards from this kind of relationship here. So if we were in questions, we could find out what the quiz related data was that's connected to the information we wanted to find about the question. And in similar, if we created a quiz and we wanted to know all the questions, because we've got this foreign key here, although it's stated here and not in this model here, it does mean we can still find information about the question from the quiz. And that's important to understand. Once we start looking at the serializers, we'll be doing exactly that. We'll be collecting all the data about the quizzes and then be able to make, through this connection, find all the information about the questions as well. So now we've got all our relationships in place. Let's just go ahead and fill this in with all the other information that we're going to need. So the category, all we're going to have in the category is just name for now. And then we're just going to return the string method here, done the method, just the name of the category. So that's going to be the default string that's returned for that table or that model. So what you will find with data, or how the data or this code is structured inside the models, is that there is or some people do follow a general kind of schema in terms of what data goes first inside of your model class. And of course, that then just nicely organizes it and standardizes the way that you can read through the model. So I'm just going to place some data here, which typically is kind of out of order from those type of schemas or ways of working. So we just add some class meta here. So if you're not already familiar with this, so we've got this verbose name. So we can kind of rename the table. So our table might be called something like this, which might be really handy for when we're working with queries, etc. That might be really handy. But when we actually want, what we want to actually display in our software, that might be slightly different. So, or how we might want to refer to this model might be different. So we can set the verbose name and also the plural name, how we want to display in plural. Now, this is a good example here of utilizing the plural name, because quiz will normally just be pluralized by Django like this with an S on. So this way we can actually do this correctly. And then there's lots of different other meta options that are available. Ordering is just one of these, so we can set the ordering. So that's just in class meta. And let's move on to the next point. So let's go ahead and now just add let's add a title. Okay, so you'll noticed already that you're starting to see some of these underscores everywhere. So the whole point here is that our application might need to get translated. So in order to kind of aid that translation, we can identify what might need to be translated. So that's really the short version of a longer story. So you can see here that I've imported Django utils translation, import the get lazy. So if you want to research this, have a look up on get text lazy. So this is a tutorial that I've been asked many times about looking at how to do translations. It is something that I will definitely look at in the next couple of months. So we're just importing that in as this underscore here. So anytime you see an underscore before a name, that's something that potentially might get translated. So I've just added some other attributes here just to show. So we've got the verbose name here. So you can see that we can also kind of make a different name or generate a different name for this particular field. Utilizing the verbose name, for example, we've got the max length at 255, and we've also got the default option. So have a look at those. It's worth understanding, or maybe sometimes including some of those different items. So default is what's going to be included in the field by default. So if we don't place anything in this field, it's just going to say new quiz. So we've got that now in place, the title. We've got a category. So what else we're going to need here? Let's just go for date created. So like I said, this is just going to be a skeleton set of fields for you. So we've got the date created, and here I'm using auto now add. Okay, so there's two options here, if I remember. There's auto now and there's auto now add. So auto now is this, and auto now add. So the difference here is that when the model is initially created, that's when this date is going to be automatically generated. So automatically when it's added. So when we do an update, that won't get updated. However, if we set this to auto now, that means every time we update the model, it will then get updated. So essentially what we're doing here then, I guess, is doing date created. If we do date updated, then that's where we're going to use the auto now instead of the auto now add. Okay, so we've got that in place. So that's all good. And now we can go ahead and add in the string done method. So return the default string for this table. So that's all in place now. So that's what we're doing for the quiz table. You can, of course, add your own fields if you want to. So next thing, I just wanted to show you an abstract base class. So an abstract base class, these are going to be useful when you want to put, for example, common information or the same information into multiple tables. So here is an opportunity to use one. So for example, when we update a question, we want to record that it's been updated. When we update an answer, we want to record that it's been updated. So we can keep track of when the answer and question has been updated. So let's go ahead and just create a new class here. We're just going to call this update. Let's just call this update time, or just maybe updated. That'll probably do. So here we're just extending from models again, as we normally do. And now we can populate this as we would do a normal table. So we're going to just call this date updated. So it's just going to be a date time field, sorry. So we've got the auto now true. So that's going to mean that when we update the item, it's going to automatically update the date time field with that new timestamp. So we can also set the class meta. So we'll say abstract equals true. So this is going to be an abstract class. Okay, so now what we got, notice here it says update question. Let's just change this to updated. So instead of now extending from models.model, we're now just extending from this abstract class here, or this abstract model that we have here. And we're just going to basically import this in to question and answer. So it's just going to be automatically generated in that way. So to confirm, we don't actually have to reference this now within question and answer. literally this is just going to be utilized when we actually create the model. You'll see this, that there will be an entry in question and there's an entry in answer. Okay, so moving on to question, this gives us a little bit of an opportunity to utilize some other tools. Let's just set the class meta again. Again, I'm just going to put this up the top just for now. There we go. So we've got the name, the plural name, the order, for example. And now we need to think about some scales because what we want to do is make a select option. So the question will probably have different scale of difficultness, if that's difficulty, sorry. Let's go ahead and add a scale for that. So typically this is what is found at the top of the class, or the first item that's normally described at the top of the class. So we've got this nice scale here. And notice that what we're doing here is we're utilizing the facility before, the translation tool. So we've got fundamental, beginner, intermediate, advanced, and expert, because all these items here will potentially be seen by the user. So potentially they need to be translated into their own languages, etc. Now, this type of format here, behind the scenes, fundamental is referenced as 0, beginner 1, intermediate 2, 3, and 4. So we've got this kind of numbered scaled here behind the scenes, and this is what the actual user is looking at. So I prefer to work this way because it's probably easier and performance-wise, potentially, to query numbers rather than these words here. I say that very lightly. So we've got this scale here. You can probably see how that's going to be working. Now, I also want a type. So in addition to scale, I want to know what type of question it might be, because later on we might extend this into different types of questions. So multiple choices, gapped choices, other types of questioning that you might want to utilize true or false, for example, in your quiz. So I've also got a drop down for that too. And that's really going to be really handy to sort out some logic later on. So we've got the foreign key in place. So I like to normally just utilize that first at the top so I can see, and I'd have to kind of drill down to the rest of the fields to find any foreign keys. So any kind of dependencies fields will be at the top of my model. So we're going to just add some more here. Now I'm just going to kind of bulk fill this in, save a bit of time. So here we've got technique, and you can see here that's referring to the choices. So here we've got choices, and we selected type. So these are the choices right here. And we've got the title, the difficulty. So this comes from the drop-down option scale. So these are all the options that are available for scale. So that's going to provide a nice little drop-down. And then we've got date created and then is active. So we want to be able to kind of turn on and off the questions, so to make them available or not. So we'll finish that off with our dunder method to return the default string for this model. And there we go. So we have our question table now. So that just leaves our answer. So here we're just going to same type of process. Let's just add some meta in, and then we've got our foreign key. And this time, probably what we're going to do here is just add two things: the answer text, and then whether the question is right or not. Now, that's a little bit contentious, is right here. So essentially, if you can visualize this table is going to have the question ID and then the question. And then that's obviously connected to the question. So question 1, whatever. And then the answer, well, there'll be, say, multiple answers here recorded via the ID of the question. And then one of those that are connected to that question will be flagged as is right. That finishes off our models for this project. So only one thing I didn't mention that I was going to talk about was normalization. So if you do happen to want to learn a little bit more about databases and formulating database schemas and tables, etc., it's well worth having a read through normalization. It's going to ultimately make maintaining and changing your database more effective, and has effects on performance, or it can improve performance and efficiency of your database. And also, another area to look at is database anomalies. So the idea of structuring a database is to ensure that you protect yourself against some common database anomalies. So for example, update anomaly. Next up, we have admin. So I'm just going to take you through a small activity where we're going to utilize inline model admin objects. So as of making this tutorial, this is something that I've not mentioned yet in this channel. So this is a great scenario in order to actually apply or to introduce this topic to you. This is essentially going to allow us to edit models on the same page as the parent model. So that's a description from Django. So essentially what we can do here is we can take two models that are connected. In this case, we've got the many-to-one connections, the foreign keys. We can take these two models and we can put them on the same form or the same page. And we can then update both of those models at the same time. So if you haven't already done so, now's a good time to migrate the data. I can't remember if I've done that. So make migrations. Oh, okay. So then go ahead and just migrate. And then if you haven't already got a super user, just create a new super user. I'm just going to call mine admin and admin. There we go. So let's just start the server. Back in the admin, let's go ahead and just delete what we had previously, if you had anything in there. And I'm just going to now add a registration here for the category. So I've created this new class here called cat admin, and I'm listing just the name in this case, it looks like. So let's just go ahead and have a look at see what that looks like. There we go. So I've registered that. So there's no categories there at the moment. And then let's go ahead now and register a new table. So this time it's going to be quizzes. So here you can see that I'm just going to display the ID and title in the list when we create a new quiz. So that's what's going to be displayed in the listing. And then underneath here, we've got answer inline model. That's the name of the class. And then here we're extending from admin and we're going to use the tabular inline. So if you take a look through the Django documentation, you can see that there's two subclasses of the inline model admin. They're tabular inline and stacked inline. Of course, we're going to be utilizing tabular inline here. And like it says here, the difference between them is merely just the template used to render them. So let's just go ahead and use the tabular inline. As I described earlier, this is going to essentially allow us to take data or use two models and put them on the same page. And that's going to be made a little bit clearer as to why we're using that in a second. So let's just go back to our code. So you can see here that we've registered the quizzes. We've got some listing the display of the quiz. So when we created a quiz, it should list just the ID and the title. So let's just go ahead and do that. So I've added it already and I'm going to just refresh and you're going to just see the ID and the quiz title. There we go. So I've added a new quiz and some new categories from here already. So what we now need to do is just go back. So now what we've done here, you can see that we've created a tabular inline. Okay, so we've selected the model that we want to use, the answers. So it looks as though here what we're going to do is we're going to put the answers on the same page as something else. In this case, it's going to be the question. Because what we want to do is when we make a new question is we might as well add the answers while we're there. There's no point then coming out, going back into the other table and then making the answers. We might as well do it all on the same page. So you can see I've selected the fields that we want to use and there we go. So we need to kind of define this first before we go ahead and use it. So that's why we've done that. So let's just go back to here. Now we've got the question. So we're just going to register the question. So we've got some fields here that we're going to register. So we're only going to see the title and quiz field. When we actually build a new question, we're only going to see the title and the quiz. And this is what we're going to list when we're listing all the quizzes. sorry, or the questions, sorry. And this time, when we build a new question, we're also going to put inline the answer inline model. And that's the name of the class that we created earlier that's connected to the answer. So essentially what we're doing is we're saying that on the question page, we're going to use an inline, and we're also going to insert the answers. And that's just being extracted here, included here via this class. So the last thing that we'll do is we'll just add the question, so we can just access all the questions. Let's just register that. And there we go. So that's going to be our admin py file. So let's go ahead and have a look now at this in action. So like I said, I've already added some categories and I think a quiz. Yep, so we've got a new quiz here. So let's go into questions. So we add a new question, and here we go. So what you're seeing here is the model for the question, and then the model for the answers. So we can add data all at the same time. So let's call this question 1. This is from the new quiz that we've just made. So the answer 1, answer 2, and answer 3. And here I can define if it's right or not, and I've got the option to delete. So this is just something that the admin page is automatically generated. Now behind the scenes, what's going to happen is that when we save this, it's going to save the question and also the answers. Now remember that we've got a foreign key between the answers and the question, so there is a link between them. So Django, or the backend, is able to work that out, save it appropriately, and there we go. So if I now go into the answers, you can see we've got answers here, and they're connected to the question. So our final step really is to now create some views and some serializers so that we can pass the data over to the front end. Now, what we're going to do here is, in this example, is just create 3 views or 3 endpoints for our API system. One to gather or to collect all the data about all the quizzes. So if we want to find out what quizzes were available, we're going to use that endpoint. Then we're going to create a random question endpoint, so we can select a random question from a topic. And then finally, we do a question from a particular quiz. So you'd assume that the user would, on the front end, pick a quiz and then be presented with the questions and obviously all the answers, and they'd be able to click through that one by one and answer all the questions. I suppose it's worth noting here, there's 2 strategies here for the front end. So do you allow the front end to access a question at a time? So for example, your API would request question 1 from the system, that would be returned, and then question 2 and 3 and 4. Or do you choose to basically just find all the questions related to that quiz, take that and put it all onto the front end and store it on the front end and just kind of iterate through all of those questions? I guess that's a decision that you need to make. Now, here we're just really talking about text, probably a very small amount of text or data. So it's probably worthwhile actually collecting all the quiz questions and answers and then saving that in state on the front end. That's probably a better answer, because once you start scaling this up, you imagine if you've got 1 million people trying to do a quiz, that's 1 million requests every single question, rather than being 1 million requests per every quiz. So you're just cutting down on the amount of bandwidth and potentially a lot of cost savings there to be made. But that's obviously a choice that you can make. So before we start building our views, let's just go ahead and create some URLs. So in the core, we're going to connect the URLs to our quiz. So here you can see what we've done is we've included, or we've added include, so we can use the include. And then we're just going to include the quiz URLs. We've given it a namespace here. And then you can see that the path is going to be quiz. So if we want to access our API, we're going to use the quiz in the URL to extend the default path. And then let's go over now to our quiz in the URLs. So now we've added the app name because we've provided a namespace. We've imported from the view the quiz. That's going to be our first view. That doesn't exist yet. We'll do that in a second. And we're going to be using class-based views. So here we've created a simple URL pattern of the default path. So if we just type in quiz after the default URL. That's going to take us to this path. And here we're going to then collect or perform what's in the view called quiz. So we're giving it a simple name, and I think that's all we need to do there. Okay, so let's go over to the views. So nothing currently in the view, so let's go ahead and do something here. So first of all, we're going to start off with creating a simple kind of a list of all the quizzes. So we are going to be using class-based views. So let's bring in the REST framework tools. In this case, we're going to bring in the generics. So in the first instance here, we're going to use the list API view. So let's bring that in. And then what we're going to need after that is probably a class, I guess. So let's go ahead and build a new class for this. So let's just call this quiz. And then we're going to extend from generics, and we're going to be utilizing the list view API. So we don't need to create anything or anything crazy like that. We're just literally going to list items. So in this case, all we need here is a serializer class. So we're going to need to make that. So we'll call that quiz serializer. And then we're going to need a query set. So we're going to say we want all the data from the table quizzes. Okay, so that just collects all the data. So obviously we're going to need to bring that in. So from models, import, and this time it's going to be quizzes. Okay, so we've brought in the model that we're going to need. So that's pretty much it, really. So we're just collecting all the quizzes from the database, putting in the query set. And because we're utilizing this list API, there's a lot of abstraction here, but behind the scenes, that's going to do everything for us in terms of sending it over to the front end. So now you might imagine we're going to need a serializer. So here we called our serializer for this data quiz serializer. So let's bring that in from our serializers, which we need to build. So I've made a new file here called Serializers. Okay, so what I've got here from the REST framework, I've imported serializers, and then I've gone ahead and I'm going to need the model. So I've imported the model that I'm going to need. So I've created a new class. I've called that quiz serializer. That matches up with everything in the view. And now I'm just extended from serializers and I'm using model serializer. So what's happening here, if you're not familiar with serializers, is in the view, we collect all the data from a database. Now, the thing is here is that if we collected this data and sent it across to the front end via the API, the data wouldn't be formatted in a way that could be utilized by the front end, because typically we're going to be utilizing JSON on the front end. So we need to format the data in a way that JSON can, or that JavaScript, can handle. So we will utilize the serializer. The serializer is basically going to take that data and then make it or format it in a way that can be utilized in the front end. So let's go back to the serializer, and you can see what we've done here is in the serializer, we created a class meta. We've selected the model we want to use, quizzes, and the data that we want to collect. So in this case, we're just going to collect the title and then push that over to the front end. So before we can see this in action, you can see that maybe there's an issue here in the view. So we just remove that comma. It looks like it might be okay now. So let's go back into the front end. Now, what I do have is, let's have a look, quizzes. We've got one quiz. So we're only going to see one quiz. Now, remember the endpoint was I'll do it here. So our endpoint was just a quiz. And there we go. So one item is being displayed because we have one item in the database. I think that's pretty simple. So let's just open up a new tab here for the admin. So let's just go ahead and just test that. So if I create a new quiz, of course, new quiz 2, I'll make it into a React quiz, press save, go back to the front end. You can now see we've got 2 quizzes. So clearly that endpoint is working for us, and that's returning all the quizzes that are available in the database. So let's have a look at creating some sort of random question from a particular topic. So we're going to utilize, I think, API view for this. This might be a good example of API view. So whereas we've got these list API views from the generics, that's going to provide a lot of abstraction here. It does a lot for us. You can see all we need to do is define the query set in the serializer, and it just works. So with API view, we can be a little bit more descriptive and we can provide more information and be in a little bit more control as to what's happening. So let's go ahead now and just create our random for this. So this time we're going to use, like I said, the API view. So let's just call this a random quiz or random question. And then this is going to be utilizing the API view. So when is this going to be utilized? So here we need to define the request type. So when, for example, we send a request to this endpoint that we're building here, and that's going to be a GET request. So we're going to need to perform an action based upon our GET request. So we call this this new function GET, say, and then let's take in self and request. Let's take in all that information into this function so we can utilize it within this function. We can define the format as none, and then we can also take in the quarks, the additional arguments or additional data that we might be sending in, and we will be doing that. And this is why we're doing it this way, just to show you this. So if you're not too sure what args and quarks are, there is a good tutorial in this channel, which I explain and give you a brief overview, or quite an in-depth overview of what these are and how they potentially work in Django. So talking a little bit about selecting a random item from the database. So there are many different ways we can do this. We could, for example, and where possible, you always want to try and put as much in the model as possible and keep the view light as possible. So there's a lot of things we can put in this model. So for example, if we knew that we wanted a particular, in this case, random, we could set out maybe a custom manager for this, or we could set out a custom function to generate a random item from a database. Now, in this case, we're not going to do that. I'm just going to keep it into view, just keep it nice and tidy. Really, I'm not trying to make this into a feature, selecting random items from a database. So we're going to keep it nice and simple, and we're going to use order by. And I'm going to show you how that works in a second. So we could have, like I said, we could have done this in many ways, but this seems not the easiest way to do it. So we're going to collect a random question from the question. Let's bring in from the models question. So from question, so that's where all our questions are stored. We're going to use a default manager and then filter. So we're going to make a simple filter. Okay, so like I said, we want to select a specific question from a topic that's defined. So the user will define the topic, and that will then be indicated in the URL. And what will happen is that word, that topic that's been selected, will go across into the quarks here, and we're going to utilize or extract that out, and we're going to utilize it in this filter so we can select the particular. So in this case, the topic is basically going to be the quiz name or the quiz title. Okay, so the quiz title is going to be called Django, or it's going to be called React, for example. So this is just for demonstration purposes. So what we're going to say is that if we look at our model here, in our question, if we go down to the question here, we've got a foreign key, and that foreign key is connected to quizzes. Okay, so our quiz has a name. So let's draw this back up to quiz. In quizzes, we have title. So what we're going to do is we're going to filter based upon the title of the quiz. That's what we're going to do. Sorry if that was confusing. So because we've got that connection between the quiz questions and the quizzes, we can access the quiz's title. So we can run a filter on that. So let's go back in here. So what we're going to do is say quiz and then use a double underscore so we can access the quiz. So we're working backwards from the question. We're now inside of the question model, say, and now we've gone to the quiz field, which is a foreign key. And we're using the doubles here, underscores, to say we want to move backwards now into the quiz table. And we want to select in the quiz table the title. So that's going to equal our quarks. So remember, we're going to send across from the URL, for example, Django. And now we're going to filter and get a question from based upon the quiz title being Django. So any question, which if you roll back to the quiz model, is inside of the Django quiz. So this is going to be, we're just going to call this topic. So that's what we're going to name the quarks. So any data inside of topic. And now we're going to order. So this is going to provide this kind of random element. So we're going to collect all the questions from the, say, Django or the React quiz, and then we're just going to order them. And this is going to basically make a random order. So we say order by, and then we're going to utilize the question mark, and that's going to make a random order. And of course, we only want to select one of these items because we only want one question at a time. So let's go ahead and just kind of slice it really and just select one of those items. And there we go. So that will create a very simple random question. So in terms of this quiz, it's effective and it's not going to be too costly here because we're only running one query and there isn't going to be too many questions that we need to run through. So that really isn't going to be a problem in this case. So let's just go to the next line here. So now we're going to need a serializer, of course. So let's bring in our serializer class. So we've got a serializer. We're going to call that random. Yeah, let's call that random question serializer. So let's just connect to that. And then what we need to do now is we need to pass in the data from that we've collected from the database. So that's in the variable here, question. And then we're going to say many. There are many. So many equals true. And then we're just going to return that. So return, we're going to use the response, which we need to bring into the project. And then serializer.data. We're going to send the data back. So there we go. So let's just bring in the response in from the REST framework. Okay, it's pretty rainy outside. Okay, so there we go. That's set up. So now we need to go into the serializer and sort that out. Okay, so let's bring in the question. Let's do that first. So we're bringing that model. Now we're making a new class. We need to call that random question serializer. Let's just bring it in while we're here in the view. So let's just get rid of the model. So in the serializer, we're going to call this random question serializer. And like before, we're just going to extend from serializer. There we go. So let's do something here. Let's just go ahead and just create some class meta very quickly. There we go. So we obviously want to use the model question and we want to return the title and the answer. Okay, so before we do anything special here, let's just go ahead and create a new URL for this. So we're in quiz in our URLs. So let's just build a new URL for this. Now what we're going to need to do here is we want to take in a parameter, because what we want to do is we want to take in the parameter of the actual topic or the actual name of the quiz that we want to find a random question from. So here we're going to set up a return a string, and we're going to, remember, call that topic. So that's going to be the like a variable really that we're sending across, say, and that's going to be referenced by topic. So that's in place. And then of course we now just need to connect that to our class here. So that was called random question. So let's just bring that in first into our URLs, and then we can utilize it right here. And then dot as view. Okay, and then we can give that a name, of course. So let's just call that random. Okay, so now we've got our URL in place. Let's just see this working. So remember, we need to say quiz for random, and then we need to the name of our topic. So remember, this topic name is going to be utilized and passed in, and that's going to be stored in the quarks. And then you can see what we're doing. We're going into the quarks and we're looking for topic, and this filter, which is spelled wrong, that was a good spot. That's going to filter based upon the quiz title being whatever the topic name is from the URL. Okay, so let's get back in to our quiz here. So we need R for random and then say Django. So at the moment, we are missing one required positional argument. So let's have a look to see what the problem is here. So just fixing that little problem, format equals none, and also just making sure that the filter was called filter spelled correctly. So once we've done that, we can now go back into our view, and you can see that our random question generates no data at all at the moment. So obviously we don't actually have a quiz called Django, so let's go ahead and actually build this new quiz. It needs to be called Django, and let's press save. It's going to be in the category of Django, and we can just quickly then make some few questions for this. Let's call this Q1 of the Django quiz and A3. Okay, so we've got a question and we've got some answers. So let's now go back and refresh, and you can now see what's happening here is that from Django, we've actually collected one question, and that's the question we've just made. So notice as well, we've got an answer. That seems pretty cool. So we've now got a question and an answer. So let's go ahead and just build another question just to see if this is working properly. So inside of my questions, let's go and build a new question. So let's call this question 2, and this is going to be for the Django. So we've got A1, A2, and A3 again. So let's go back to here and refresh. And you can see that if I keep refreshing, I get a random question being generated. So you can see what's actually being returned isn't very useful because the answer is just returning 4, 5, and 6. Now, I'm pretty amazed that this is working, actual fact. I would have guessed that, or would have said that this wouldn't work, because all I've done is randomly typed in title and answer here into the serializer. Now, answer is not actually referring to anything that I can see. No. Somehow Django is working out what the answers are, obviously utilizing the foreign key, but there isn't actually a reference to answer here because our answers in the model, if I go back to the model, are called answer text. So the only thing that's called answer is actually the table, but that's got a capital. So that's a little bit strange, but nevertheless, you can see that isn't what we need. So we need to think about collecting more data that is more appropriate to sending across to the front end. So here we introduce serializer relations. So this is going to be a way of collecting or utilizing relational data within our models. So from our serializer, we can collect utilizing our serializer relations. As long as there's a relationship between the two tables, we can collect information from it potentially. So let's have a look at some of the options. We've got the string related field. So it can be used to represent the target of the relationship using its string dunder method. Right, so let's just utilize this first. So let's go back and into our serializer. Let's go ahead and create an answer. So the answer equals serializers string related field. Many equals true. So we're going to utilize the string related field. So we're going to serialize that, put it into answer, and then that's now connected here. So that should output that information. Now what's happening here, it says string related field. So let's go back into the model. Down here in our answer, we don't have the dunder method. So let's just put in the dunder method here. And let's utilize the answer text. So we're going to return default the answer text from our answer table here, or our answer model. So let's just give that a go and see what now gets returned. And there we go. So we've got A1, A2, A3. So it's utilizing that foreign key to work backwards and then to actually find the answer. So we actually have the answer text here. Now that's not always going to be something you want to do, because your dunder string method here might be completely different. So let's just show that that is working. Now, this is going to cause an error, you would imagine, because it's not going to be a string. Yep. Okay, so it will only return non-string, only return string methods. So let's go back here, and obviously the question, that should just be an ID. So let's go for that. Okay, so that's not going to work either. I was hoping to show you something else, but clearly what's happening, take from me, what's happening is it's utilizing this dunder string method here and returning what the default string is returning. In this case, it's the answer text. And that's why we're receiving the answer text here. So hopefully you get the idea here. So you can work through this now. You've got primary key related fields. You can collect hyperlink related fields. That's going to be useful to return hyperlinks. So if we had a slug, for example, in the quiz table, if we utilize this slug, we could return back the URL, and that will then make a link to the actual quiz from the quiz link. So for example, we would go on our front end to the page which shows all the quizzes, and then we would also send back the URL for that quiz, so that when we click on that quiz, we can set it up and utilize that URL to then actually go to the quiz and start the quiz. Obviously, this link here would be appropriate, so it'd be captured within our API system, and it would actually be an endpoint to the start of the quiz. So just looking through this, we've got the slug related field. It's worth having a look at, and the hyperlinked identity field. So all these are the same type of principles. You just need to read through. Hopefully you can see what's happening now with those. So those are available for you to utilize. So the only thing that really might need an explanation or an example is the custom relational field. So what we can do here is we can do this, for example. So let's just go back into our serializer, and let's just now make a new serializer for the answers. So this is going to be above the random. So we want to bring this in first. So here we're going to create a new serializer called answer serializer. We're going to use the answer model, so we need to bring that in. And basically that's going to collect all the information from that model. In this case, the ID, answer, text, and is right. So that's the information that we probably want to pass over about the question to the front end, right? So what we need to do now is, well, just link to it really. And that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and now store that there. So we link to it. There's some properties here which you can have a look on the website, what they mean. And there we go. So that's hopefully now all this information here will now be brought into this variable and serialized, ready to put into our model. And then this will then be shipped across to the front end. So that should be much more functional information for our front end. So let's go back and refresh. And there we go. So that's much more effective. Now this is being sent to the front end. You've got the actual title of the question. That's the actual question text. You've got the answers. So you've got an ID, an answer text, and whether it's right or wrong, whether it's true or false. And there we go. So that seems like a good way of working. If I keep refreshing, you can see that it's going to collect different questions within that particular quiz. There we go. So a random quiz selector. So that just leaves our last view to build, and that's collecting all of the quiz questions from a particular quiz. So that should be pretty simple now, because we can just reutilize our random question here. So I've copied and pasted, called the class quiz question now. And this is going to be a get request again. We're going to take in some quarks. So here, it's not going to be random anymore, but we are still going to take in gather all the questions from the particular title. So from the Django quiz, or from the React quiz, or whatever. So we just basically don't need the end part here where we order the items. And then we're going to create a new serializer. Let's just call that question serializer. Yep, let's just call that question serializer. And that's going to take in question here again. And then we're going to send out a response. So that pretty much seems all that we're going to need there. So let's go into our URLs. So let's just build a new path or an endpoint for this. So this path, let's just copy this. In this case, it's not going to be a random. It's just going to be a selected quiz. So I'm just going to use Q here. You can change that path if you want. So we're going to take in topic again. And now this time it's going to be called, I think it was quiz question. We named it. Yep. Okay. So obviously we need to bring that into the URLs. There we go. And let's just call that quiz questions. There we go. And now that's all in place. So now what we need to do is go over to the serializers. So we called this serializer question serializer. So we need to bring that in to the view first. And then go over to serializer. Let's just create a new class here. We're going to call that question serializer as per normal. And then we're just going to import again our serializer, model serializer. So at this point, we're literally just copy and pasting what we previously done. We could probably almost use this serializer apart from one item, but you might want to change. And so if we put this in here, let's just go back to the views just to confirm what we've got. So we've literally got the same as the random question without the randomness of ordering. And that's going to return all of the questions. And then in our serializer, we're doing exactly the same thing again. We're going to collect all the answers. And we're going to use the model question to get all the questions and then all related answers. So let's just take a look at what that looks like. So here we are. You can see that we're collecting the title of all of the questions and all the answer data. Obviously, if there was more data, we'd have more data here, obviously. Sorry. So we've only got 2 questions inside of our quiz at the moment. So that's why we're returning only 2 items. So obviously one thing we're missing here is the title. So we want to pass across to the front end the actual title of this quiz. So again, I'll just stitch this together, right? Because we've got the information up here. So let's go ahead and just copy this. That's the wrong one. Let's go ahead at the bottom here, our quiz serializer, and we'll just copy this down. We call this quiz. How about that? And then now we want to use this serializer here. So the quiz serializer is going to collect the title of the quiz. Now, because there's a relationship between the question in the model and the quizzes table, it means we can access that information. So let's just change here to the quiz serializer. And then, of course, we're not returning more than one item. So it's not iterable at all. So many equals true is false. So we take that out for now. And there we go. So what we have now, if we return back and we refresh, is a broken Serializer. Okay, let's just go back here. What's missing here? Quiz. Okay, so actually let's bring it in because we haven't actually brought it in yet. So let's put it at the front here. So that's going to return that. Is that going to fix it? I didn't read that. Yeah, okay. So there we go. So now we have the quiz title and all the quiz questions, and it is returning the quiz title on each question. But that's okay for now. That isn't too much of an issue. So yeah, there we go. So we now have all the data that's kind of valid. We could definitely utilize this now and send it across to the front end and build a quiz. So I do hope that's given you some insight into working with foreign keys, handling relational data with inside your serializers to kind of expand the data that's returned to the front end. In addition to that, hopefully you've learned a little bit more about the admin and how you can use multiple models on the same page or within the same form set. Hopefully that was useful too. So we do have a functional quiz API now. Obviously there's no security here. There's lots of more things that we could add obviously to this. Hopefully this is kind of a baseline to help you move your knowledge forward and start to utilize data and to start to kind of put data together to send across to the front end. So naturally, the next step in this series would be to create the front end to handle all that data and actually create some sort of usable quiz application. So if you are enjoying the tutorials and you want to support the channel further, then please join our community, our membership community. If you go to the homepage, select join, you can join as a member to our channel and support our channel further. Okay, so thank you very much, and hopefully I'll see you in the next tutorial.